Hello and welcome to my channel, On the Hook Crochet, where we talk about wearable crochet style. And I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful week. This is a late week video for Thursday, and I will be probably publishing another video this week about my new diamond painting that I had framed. The name of the painting is The Girl with a Pearl Earring, and that is by Johann Vermeer. Very beautiful painting. It didn't take me all that long to do it because there was a lot of background where I used a multi-placer device on the end of my pen where I could place 6 or 4 or 9 diamonds at one time, so it was quite wonderful. I became much better at multi-placing just by doing that particular painting. So it has a black background. It's really navy blue, but it looks black. And the girl in the middle is so beautiful, so beautiful. So Mr. On the Hook has generously offered to go pick that up for me today. I'll probably be talking about that this weekend. I'll do a post reveal and I'll talk about some of the details of the painting, so you might want to check that out. If you're subscribed, you will get a notification because you're still on the Hook subscriber list, so you will get that. I haven't broken away and come up with a different YouTube channel. I don't really want to do that. So if you see a notification for something like that, you might watch it because it's interesting, something a little bit different from crochet. But today I want you to subscribe to this channel because we are in On the Hook Crochet mode today, and I want to talk about crochet today. First, I'm going to talk about a few whips that I have, and then Crystal's going to model for me. She has been wanting to model, and so I'm going to let her model my new Summertime Cardi. I've not finished it yet, but I want to talk about some of the detail on there. So she'll come in a little bit later and we'll talk to Crystal about her new Summertime Cardi that she's wearing. Now, first of all, thank you for all the people who offered to send me some Beaches Audine Wools yarn. I wanted to finish my soft linen tee, and I ran out of yarn. Well, I haven't run out yet, but I will run out before I was finished. So this is what I have done on the front. I've continued to crochet now. I'm using an H hook, which is a 5.0 millimeter, and I'm using the fingering weight yarn called Audine Wools Interlock in the colorway Beaches, and this is what it looks like on the hank, and this is what it looks like on the ball because I still have some of that left, a little bit of that left. This is what it looks like on the ball. Now it has a little bit of a different color throughout. It's not so much that you notice it that much, but you do notice it after you crochet the fabric. You can see that it's a little bit darker in spots, but it is quite beautiful. I'm very pleased with this, so I'm continuing to crochet on that. I think 7 or 8 women notified me that they had some of this. Now I know because Knit Crate sends it out every month, I still have some Knit Crate up there. If somebody asks for some, I might send it to them because I only have 2 hanks. But the lady who contacted me first, her name was Christy, and she offered to send me a hank of this yarn, and I'll be getting in touch with Christy because I'd like to compensate you in some way. So there you go. I have enough yarn to finish my soft linen tee, one of my last patterns for the summer. Not really sure about that because we have all of July and all of August left, so I might be able to do another project or two for the summer. Speaking of summertime, I found this dotted line yarn on Amazon of all places. It's of course 100% acrylic. It's a number 2 yarn, and this is the yarn that I combined with some comfy cotton to make my summer cottage cardi. Now this is called Liberty, and I looked at it very closely, and it's red, white, and blue. Look at that. Now the red is not a super harsh red, it's just a kind of a pinky red. But what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to combine it with some Cotton Fair yarn and make another America Tank or something similar to that. Now the Cotton Fair yarn didn't come in yet. I couldn't find any white Cotton Fair, although I'm sure it's out there. I was on Amazon and I found some cream colored Cotton Fair which looked almost exactly like the white. So I went ahead and ordered it, and hopefully it'll blend in with this, and I'm going to hold this yarn with the Cotton Fair, the 2 against the 2, and maybe it'll make maybe like a worsted weight yarn to do the America Tank with, and that'll make it go a lot faster. And I just thought I'd like to have two patriotic crocheted tops. So that is what I'm going to do with this yarn. Again, this is the Dotted Line by Lion brand. This has been discontinued, unfortunately. It is so soft and so wonderful. I really enjoyed using it for my summer cottage cardi, and along with their comfy cotton brand white whipped cream, I used the Blue Thunder, I think it was. I might be wrong about that color, but it's a blue and white dotted line, and such a beautiful yarn. I'm sad that they have discontinued it, but I have continued to see it on different websites. So I found this on Amazon and I ordered it. It came in 2 days, and I'm holding on to that till I get the Cotton Fair yarn, which is cotton and acrylic, I believe. This is all acrylic, so it should be just fine to make that top from. So that is one of my projects coming up. I have a little bit of progress to show on my Easy Tweedy sweater in the Drifter yarn by King Cole. This is Drifter yarn. It is not available anymore either. You can get it different places though. I've had people tell me where to go to get this. And this is the colorway Michigan, I believe. Yes, this is Michigan. They're all named after states, and you might find some on eBay. I'm not sure who else has this, but I have 4 balls of this, so I thought I would make an Easy Tweedy sweater for the summer, late summer. So I'm working on that right now. Now, I know that that is a stripy yarn. I don't love stripy yarns at all, but I've continued to crochet on it, and this is what it looks like. It is a little bit stripy. It's not terrible. I mean, I love the colors in it, so that's not a problem. It's the way the stripes are continued into each other. And on knitting it might look better. I don't know. I'm still, the jury's out on this. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue it. But I am working on it a little bit at a time. So I did put in a couple of 3 inches on that since I talked to y'all last. So I wanted to show you that progress. What do you think about those stripes? Let me know. I'd like to know what y'all think about those, because I look at it, I go, and then I think, well, it's going to be pretty when I finish it. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it yet. That is another work in progress. One of the works in progress I talked about last week has made it to a project bag. I took one of my old projects out of this project bag. I love this project bag. This is not one of Joe's, although she could do one just like this, but I bought this from a lady, I don't know, a couple of years ago in a yarn shop, and she had just actually come in with these and decided to put up an Etsy shop. I bought one, and then I think she went out of business. I don't know, but it's a wonderful project bag. It has zippers and pockets and all that in it, but I took the project out that was in there because I wasn't getting anywhere on it, and I have graduated this project to this project bag. This is my lightweight summer cardigan. It's going to be, it's out of Beautiful You. You can use any size 2 or 3 yarn on this. It's not, it will lend itself to a very nice 2 or 3 yarn out of anything, really, cotton, acrylic. It should work just fine, but this is how far I am on it. I think I showed this to you, but this has made it to a project bag, so I'll be working on this more diligently and writing the pattern for it as well. It's going to be a very lightweight cardigan for summer to wear over a t-shirt, or more than likely just wear it over a tank top, because it's going to be very lightweight. I'm making it from Beautiful You, which again has been discontinued by Lion brand, but I do love this. I have a lot of it, so I'm going to be using it on some projects. This is Beautiful You, and the colorway is Rubios Tee, T-E-A, and I don't know why it's called that, but it's kind of a rust colored red. Here, let me show you this I have that doesn't have plastic around it. This is the Rubios red, or Rubios Tee actually. It's very pretty. It's a good color for me. I really like rust and reds, and so that has made it to the project bag. I put all of my yarn in here that's going to go with that. All of the notes that I took are on the outside of the bag, and so I'm ready to go, and I can grab that if I'm leaving to ride in the car with Mr. On the Hook. I can work on that just a little bit, and I have it all in that same bag. So that has graduated to a project bag. Now, I've started another whip. I know this is silly, but I was looking in my stash and I saw this yarn, Karen Cotton Cakes. I gave away a lot of this last year, but I've since bought this, and this is the grayscale colorway, and I like it. I like it because it is all different colors of kind of a gray and an off-white. It's a very summery color. Now, what I'm wearing, this is a combination of what I'm wearing. I'm wearing the plain Jane tee with the scalloped edge around it. I use the Karen Cotton Angel Cake to make this particular top. This is the plain Jane tee, and the color is Coral Rose. Again, I think this, I'm not sure if this is available. It may be. I bought this at Michael's. It's a beautiful, beautiful color. Look at that. I just love this color. But I didn't want to make another one out of the same color, obviously. So I have put this back. This was my second cake, so I used very little from this, maybe a fourth of it at the very most. Each cotton cake has 530 yards, and this is called the Soft Summer Stripes. Soft Summer Stripes. And this is not called the Soft Summer, well, this is called the Soft Summer, yes, this is called the Soft Summer Stripes as well. You know me, and you know I don't like stripy yarn. However, it's not stripy. I like it because it's color pooled. So I thought, when I was looking up at my stash this morning, I thought, you know, I ought to make another one of these out of this Karen Cotton Cake. I have 2 cakes, and I only need about 1 1/4. So I started it. Sorry about that. I'm making this with a K-hook, just like I did this one, in half double crochet all the way to the neckline. Not hard at all. So I made it the exact same size, and I had those written down, so I just copied what I had. And the Karen Cotton Cakes are the same exact size. The yarn is the same exact size, so I can make it with confidence knowing that it's going to fit me. But this is what it looks like. It's not stripy yet. Now, I expect that it will be. I've only done a few rows, but I just did them this morning because I wanted you to see how it looked made up. Now, again, this is not striped yet. It may be a while before I get to a stripe. I don't know. But I'm excited about that because it won't take me long to make. And I'll tell you what, I have worn this top quite a few times. It's very cool for summer. It's cotton and acrylic, but it's made with a kind of a light stitch. It's just half double crochet. It's not fitted through here, so it's not hot. And the neckline is kind of wide, so it gives you plenty of air on your neck, and the back of your neck is open as well. And I made it boxy like this. I made it boxy, and it's probably maybe 8 inches of boxy around the bottom. Not as many as my Sunlit Tee, which was 16 inches of box. That's a little much. I tried it on the other day, and it looks a little bit too big for me. But I decided to make this one exactly like this because it's a perfect size. When you sit down, it doesn't grab, and it looks nice on it. Hangs very, very nicely. So I'm making another one of those, and I should be working on that this week as well. I have several projects that I'm working on, and diligently too. There's another one that Crystal wanted to model, so I'm going to ask Crystal to come over and we'll take a look at that one. Here's Crystal, and she is modeling my new Summertime Cardi. Now, if you're not familiar with this, let me reach over, Crystal, and grab that pattern. This is the pattern that I'm using, the Summertime Cardi. So many of y'all have bought this pattern, and I'm glad that you did. It's plenty long. There's a lot of detail in there, and it has a special edging around the cardigan, all the way around the bottom, in the fronts, and on the sleeves. And I really liked it, but this one I'm changing because I'm making it for the second time. And I always recommend that you make my patterns or anybody's patterns 2 times, because the second time you're going to make changes. So this change is a shorter body. Let me get her back here so you can see it. Yeah, there it is. It's 4 inches shorter than the original cardigan that I made. It's made out of a wool yarn, and it's a Malabrigo yarn, very beautiful, called Violetas, and I've shown that to you several times. This is the neckline that I'm using. It's the same as the Summertime Cardi I made earlier, so this has not changed. I've actually taken some of the stitch markers off the top here because I needed them on the sleeves. so I took some of them off. But actually both necklines have this many decreases on every single row you decrease to get that neckline over here. Now on the back it's the same cardigan, it's exactly the same, but look at the beautiful color pulling. I don't know if you can see that, but it did color pull very beautifully on the back, so I really like that about it. And the sleeves are going to be basically the same. I may make them a little bit longer like I've talked about before, but the decreases are from the pattern. I use the same decreases I did in the pattern, and now I'm decreasing as I need to. So I try it on every few rows, and I look to see if the sleeve is beginning to be smaller, and it is. The last decreases I did are probably the last ones I'll do. And this measurement is right about 7.5 or 8 inches, which is a good measurement for my arm around the bottom of a sleeve. So that's where I am with my decreases. So I started out with quite a large opening here. Here it is on the other side. Obviously I haven't put a sleeve in there yet. So this is how large it was. It's quite large. So what I did was I decreased as shown in that particular pattern, and then I added a couple right here on this last row, and here are the stitch markers. I added some more decreases, and this is really up to you. I leave it up to the person making the pattern because you have to try it on and say, I love the way that looks, or I need to make that smaller. Those are the two questions you ask yourself. I love the way that looks, or I want to make that a little bit smaller. If it's not large enough, then you'll probably need to frog out a little bit till you go back to your decreases. And maybe you don't need as many decreases as this, but if you try on your cardigan often, then you will see exactly where you're going. Now every decrease needs to be marked with a stitch marker, and that's why I took some off the neckline. I ran out of stitch markers, but I marked every single decrease that I did on this particular sleeve so that I can mirror that on the other side. I can be sure that I'm not making one too small or too large compared to the other side. So once I have my template there, and I do write down too, when I do a row and I say, you know, maybe I did 6 decreases on that row, I'll write DC, which is double crochet. That's the row that I'm doing. And then I write down the number of decreases, like 6 decreases. So in case I lose a stitch marker or I forget where I am, I'll have a list of the rows all the way from the first row here all the way to the end of the sleeve. And that's really important because then you can just turn around and make the other sleeve exactly like it. And you don't have to be thinking, did I do a decrease on that row or not? So that is one of the tips I have for today, actually. I have some other tips that I'm going to talk about here in just a second. So let's get on to the tips. Let's do that. That would be one tip. Always write down what decreases you do on which row, and that way when you go to do the other side or the other sleeve, then you will know exactly where you are with the decreases. Now on to the tips portion of my program. The first tip I have, and these have to do with my patterns, but you can use them on any pattern, but I write my patterns so that you can make your garment fit you. The following tips have a lot to do with that particular focus that I have with my patterns. So the next tip I have is, I believe, number 6, because we had 5 tips last time. So number 6 is, there is no swatching with my patterns. You do not have to create a swatch to make my patterns at all. You can use any size yarn you want, you can use any hook you want, because these are strictly made with your measurements. Just want to stress that. You measure yourself and then you make the garment with my direction. Now, someone wrote me yesterday and said, does this come in a 3X? And somebody else wrote and says, does this come in a 5X? It comes in your size, whatever your size is, and how the garment is structured, you'll just multiply that out to do with your measurement. So if you're larger across here, you're going to make more rows, or more, you're going to have more beginning chains at the bottom than a person that's extra small. So you're going to have this measurement, they're going to have this measurement. That's how I structure my patterns. I do not ask you to swatch. Now you can swatch on your own if you want to. If you want to make a little kind of a sample of what your yarn and your hook size may be, you can certainly do that. But there is no swatching required for my patterns. Number 7, and I just showed you this a minute ago, assign a project bag to your project, because I suggest that you keep notes in your project bag of what changes you make, or how you did the pattern, what you chose as a measurement, what you chose as a hook, what you chose as a yarn. So the next time you make it, you'll have all that information. But all that should go in your project bag. Every note that you take, everything you write down, just throw it in the project bag, because you will be glad you did when you look later into that project bag and say, oh, I need to finish this whip. And then you have no idea what size hook you were using. Of course, you took the hook out and using it as something with something else. So always assign a project bag, a bag, some kind of a Walmart bag, any kind of bag to your project. Keep everything in there, and then you'll have it when you need it. Another important tip is to keep your ball bands in your project bag. All right, say you use 4 skeins of yarn to make a sweater, and you're not really sure, did you use 5 or did you use 4? Can you remember how many you bought at Joann's 6 months ago? You won't remember it, believe me. Every time I finish a skein of yarn, I throw the ball band in the project bag. Doesn't matter where it goes. When you get finished with your sweater or your garment or your cowl or your scarf, you can look in there and see that you used 4 ball bands. Those are all the yarn that you used. It is so important to do that. I have found many times that if I didn't have those ball bands in there, I wouldn't know how many yards I need for my next project, which is just like that one. So be sure to use the ball band technique. Throw them in your project bag and you'll know exactly how much yarn you use. Tip number 8, always assign a yarn hook and a yarn to your project that is the way you want it to be. Now, let me reword that. You want to be sure you have a drapey yarn if you have a drapey garment. So this is not all that drapey. Doesn't have to be. It can hold that structure. But if you have a very boxy sweater, you want to have a drapey yarn and a hook that will give it that drape. So you might want to upsize on your hook a little bit. And in this case, you might want to make a sample so that you know exactly how drapey your fabric is going to be. My Sunlit Tee was very drapey, but it would have been even drapier in a fingering style yarn. So if I made it again, I might go down to a number 2 yarn and make it something like that out of a drapey yarn. My Summer Essentials I made that way. My Sea and Sky I made that way. But those are both with fingering yarn. And they're so drapey and lovely. When you put them on, they just fold and they're not standing straight out. This one can do that because that's the way I structured the sweater, to be more of a square. The Sea and Sky and the Summer Essentials, they're not designed to be this kind of boxy. They're much larger, so they need more drape, and they want to stay next to your body. You don't want them standing way out and making something that big out of a more coarse yarn like this. This is not the yarn you want to make a Summer Essentials out of. You want to make it out of something drapey and small. So that's just my take on making a drapey sweater. You definitely want to make it drapey if it's a larger sweater. My 9th tip, and I've said this many times, is make the pattern twice. I'm making the Summertime Cardi 2 times. The first time is a much larger, longer Cardi. It's very comfortable. It's made out of a size 4 yarn, and so is this yarn, the second Summertime Cardi that Crystal was modeling today. That is a number 4 yarn as well. But I'm making the Cardi much shorter, 4 inches shorter all the way around. I'm using a different design element at the bottom. And as I move through this, I'll show you the progress that I'm making. I want to show it to you, how beautiful it turned out in the Malabrigo yarn. It's also very beautiful in the Flex yarn by Michaels. I really like that. I have another 2 large balls of that in an off-white, so I will probably make something out of that. I'm not sure I'll make a Summertime Cardi, but I could take that yarn, make a shorter Cardi, put a different design element around the bottom, or no design element, just use a single crochet all around, make it very, very simple. I could do that. And then I could wear it with a brown skirt or brown pants. It's more of an off-white instead of a gray tone, which is what the Summertime Cardi originally was made from, with the Flex yarn. That was a gray tone yarn. So I recommend that you make the patterns at least twice, you can really get some mileage out of those patterns just by making a change or two to the yarn, the hook size, leaving off a design element if you don't like it, or if you just don't want to fool with making one. You can just make a very simple edging around the edge, and you have to do everything that the original pattern said. But I do recommend that you make it the same way as the pattern the very first time, and that way you have kind of a basis for where you want to go on your next go around with that pattern. So I suggest you make patterns twice, not just mine, but everybody's patterns at least twice. I had a request from a subscriber who asked me a couple of questions. One was, how much yardage do you need for a size 2, a 3, a 5 yarn, a weight yarn in one of my patterns? Well, I usually give the total amount of yardage I use for the size and weight of the yarn that I'm using in this particular pattern. I'll give you that yardage, and then you can kind of estimate from there. I am about a size medium, kind of a small medium, but a medium. I am in the medium range. And I usually say, you know, for a top like this, maybe 800 yards of a size 4. All right, for, you know, just a cap sleeve, nothing very, very special. And then, well, I actually put a lot of edging on this, so that was a little bit of a yarn hog. So I'd say about 800 yards. And then you can count on 1,000 yards if you are a regular size person and you want to have plenty of yards by 1,000. And then if you're using a size 3 yarn, you're going to need more yarn to cover the same amount of area. So I'd say 1,200 in a 3, and then in a 5 you might need way less, like 650, 700. Maybe something like that. So you just have to estimate. I don't give yardages in my patterns because I don't size my patterns. So I don't say if I made a size 6, then it would take exactly this much yarn. But I don't do that. And that's one of the things that makes my patterns a little bit easier to make. Is you're not constrained to a certain number of yards. You can make the sweater shorter, you can make it longer, you won't need as much yarn if you shorten it, of course. And if you make it boxy, you'll need a little bit more. So you get the hang of it. After a pattern or two, you'll go, oh yeah, I need about 1,000 yards to make that. And you can use my yardage to help you estimate that. Now, for another question that was asked, where can you find a pattern of mine where we shape the waist? Not everybody likes a boxy sweater, and that's true. And sometimes I'll make a sweater that fits closer to the body. It is not fitted, but it's a little bit less wide at the hips and at the bust, so it's going to be less wide. And I don't call that fitted, but it is fitted closer to the body. This is the pattern where I described how to use your waist point in order to shape your sweaters on the side. Now that's if you're not using a very boxy measurement for the very bottom. You want to use a smaller measurement, you know, like one that will go around you, and maybe 2 inches of ease, maybe 3 total, and then you can shape your sweater to make it fit better. And you could probably use a little bit wider measurement actually at the bottom, and just use that waist point to shape just a little bit if that's what you want with your sweater. But again, this is the Stripes and Stripes is the only pattern where I describe that. I don't get much call for that. Most people want something that's less fitted, but if you want to learn how to fit your sweaters to you with the waist point and all that, then you can find that in my Stripes and Stripes pattern. Number 10 tip, you can make my patterns for a gift, and all you need are the person's measurements. And basically you could probably do it with just a hip measurement. You could say, take a measurement of your hips. I've got a surprise for you. And then at Christmas time, you can present them with a pretty sweater or something like that. Or you can make a cowl, which you don't have to size. But if you want something to size by, all you really need is a hip measurement. You can make a simple sweater for someone. And if you want to make a long sleeve sweater, you can ask them for the measurement from their underarm all the way to the wrist. And then you have the exact measurement you need for that. You can't really ask them to measure from a neckline or even the bottom of the neck because that's variable. But from the underarm, just tell them to put the measuring tape under their arm, measure all the way to the wrist, and that's all you really need besides the hip measurement. I think you would do just fine with that. Make them a boxy sweater for wintertime and grab some wool or some size 4 yarn, acrylic or whatever, and make them a nice sweater. So you can definitely do that with my patterns. Of course you can make the cowls and the scarves and all that. But a sweater is a very special gift, and if you have a sister or a mother that you want to make a pretty sweater for, all you need are their measurements, and if you get them now, they'll forget all about that, and then at Christmas time you can present them with a beautiful sweater in their favorite color. Be sure you do that. That's not for you, it's for them. So if they really like red, then make them a red sweater, even though you might not like red. So those are my 10 tips. 5 of them were on my first video, and I'll put a link to that video up here. And up here, I'll probably put a link to the video from Monday. And Monday is a giveaway, and let me tell you about the giveaway. It is a set of 2 hanks of Knitology worsted merino. I've had a lot of people sign up for this, but be sure you go out there, use the keyword, and sign up for these 2 hanks of this very special yarn. It's a beautiful yarn. You can make somebody a cowl out of it for Christmas, or a beautiful scarf. There are all kinds of those patterns on my website, and of course you can get them other places as well. But this is a beautiful yarn. It's kind of expensive. It's a very nice wool yarn, and it's 100% superwash merino wool in the worsted weight. So you can machine wash it on delicate, and then you just lay it flat to dry, and you're all done. So sign up for this. It's called the Robin. Let me see what the colorway is again. European Robin. And be sure to watch the video so you'll know what the key word is, and you'll be in the running for this wonderful, wonderful yarn. I just wanted to remind you of that. So that's Monday's video, and it will be given away this coming Monday. Now, speaking of this coming Monday, that is the day we celebrate July 4th, but Sunday is July 4th. So I'm wishing you a wonderful July 4th. Fly that flag. It's Independence Day. It's our celebration day every year. So enjoy yourself. Talk about the flag a little bit. Talk about our independence and how we received our independence, how we grabbed our independence, and tell your children about it. It's an important day in the history of our nation. So celebrate it, have fun, have a cookout, a barbecue or whatever, and have your family over and talk about what day it is and why it's important to us. So I hope you have a wonderful July 4th, and I will see you again on Monday. Be sure to like this video before you click away. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. You can share this with your friends too as well. So if you have a crochet friend or a friend that is a hobbyist, you might want to share it with them. So thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful July the 4th, and remember, join me next time, and that will be Monday, for a crochet video to find out what's on the hook.